I'm going to hopefully help you guys learn how to take a company from an idea to $1 billion exit. I mean, that's in a lot of ways one of our primary goals here, which is to build successful businesses. And I'll give you a story of one of our successful companies called Cruise. How many people are familiar with Cruise? Self-driving cars, good, okay. So in case you aren't familiar with it, this was a company that we funded 2013, and it was basically one of the first self-driving car startups. We met Kyle when he graduated from Y Combinator, and we invested as a seed investor. I joined the board. We invested in every one of their rounds, and 3 years later, they sold to GM for reportedly over $1 billion. So it was a really fast exit, 6th fastest exit to $1 billion ever. Pretty impressive companies that are there with them. So here are the things that we look for, and one of the reasons why we think they were so successful. The two most important things that we look for at Maven when we do our seed investing is a vision worth fighting for, and then the founding team. So vision worth fighting for, we blog a lot about this. You can take a look at our mavenventures.com site. We have a blog there. We go into great detail about what it is, but essentially, it's an idea that is attacking a massive market opportunity that's not being solved by somebody else, or it's not good enough. And it's also an idea that we personally get excited about. There are a lot of great ideas and great visions that we see that's not really a good fit for us at Maven. Find the right investors that actually understand your vision and can be very helpful to you as you're building your vision. In this case, it was very clear to me in 2012 that self-driving cars was going to be here and going to be one of the most transformative technologies in our lifetimes. In fact, I've been quoted as saying that self-driving car technology and autonomous vehicles are the most transformative technologies in our lifetime, maybe second to the internet. It's going to change everything, and if you aren't familiar with it, you should start getting familiar with it because it's happening now. It's already here. There's self-driving cars from GM and Cruise and Uber in San Francisco, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Dubai, China. It's here. And it's going to be here in a much bigger way, much faster than most of you guys think. And when you think about it, it's going to change everything. You probably will never have to own a car again. Everything's going to be a taxi-like, ride-sharing, Uber-like, push a button. For $2, you go from Palo Alto to Redwood City. For $15 from Palo Alto to San Francisco, and these robots drive you around. And you could actually do a Zoom video call or take a nap. There's no more commute. And I don't want to get into great detail, but there's a lot of things that will be transformed. Now, it's also Kyle and Dan, the founders of Cruise, were a great team. Kyle, in particular, was thinking about self-driving cars since his early days at MIT. He built, that's him as a young adult teenager, building self-driving robots, toys, essentially, before MIT. This is a passion of his. Now, luckily for him, he actually was involved in another company that was sold to Amazon, a company called Twitch. He was a CTO, and that was a nice exit for him and gave him the ability to do what he really wanted to do, which is building self-driving cars. And the original idea, and I show this picture, it's me and my daughter taking a Cruise test drive from the very beginning. If you look, there's a little hardware device on top of the car. And the original idea was that we were going to take our hardware and software and retrofit any car to make them self-driving. Really interesting idea, actually really cool idea, because then you didn't have to build new cars, we can retrofit cars. It was also a good business model. We could sell them for $10,000, but there's a couple of problems with it. One of the big problems is that it's a lot of money to ask someone to pay for us to start drilling into the top of their car. So we're like, the sales pitch was, yeah, you have a nice Audi, we're gonna drill in your car and we're gonna put this, well, pretty cool, but not the nicest looking thing on top to make it self-driving. And people didn't like that. And so we had to come up with this pivot. We had a big decision to make. And what we thought about was, and this is again, 2013 timeframe, we were looking at Uber. Uber was killing it, and Uber and Lyft doing great. And we thought, the only way that a company like Uber loses is if someone builds Uber for 80% off. I mean, who's going to take an Uber around San Francisco if it's $15 when you can get a self-driving Uber for less than $5 or $2, right? So self-driving ride-sharing is a really massive idea. We had the software to make that happen, and we decided not to be a hardware company. We stopped doing hardware. That was not part of the plan. We were just going to do software. And at the time, really the only other company that was doing this is Google, now called Waymo. So here we were, this small startup, a team of less than 30 engineers building software, and lo and behold, that changed everything. All of a sudden, all the car manufacturers and many other hardware companies and OEMs were really interested in what we were doing, because we weren't the only ones that saw this opportunity to compete with Uber. They all do too. And the smart OEMs, the smart car manufacturers, are thinking, if we're going to survive another day, we have to think about the future of this business. It's the classic innovator's dilemma. They're selling cars, but if one day you don't ever have to own a car, how do you stay relevant in that world? So we started looking at partnering with many of these companies, and it turned out that it's actually really hard to partner with the kind of software we had and the kind of hardware that they have, cars. And so many of these OEMs decided this would be an interesting company to own, and GM was the lucky winner. Now we've done this, luckily for us at Maven, more than once, right? Cruise was our latest unicorn. Actually, the most recent unicorn, I don't know if any of you, were any of you there when I was talking with Eric Wan from Zoom? A few of you at the main stage. So we were an early investor in Zoom, and they recently were, had a $100 million investment from Sequoia at over $1 billion valuation. Cruise, early days of NBCi and Bebo, social networking. So we stick to what we know. We love investing in consumer software. That's our sweet spot. And we now have an expertise in consumer transportation and self-driving car technology. We are really excited about investing in new areas. We have one investment in VR. We want to do more in VR. We have one investment in health. We want to do more in health. We just invested in a small company in New York called Monkey, which is going back to our roots of social networking. It's a video communication app. They're doing very well. It's a very young team of great entrepreneurs. And we are investing out of our Fund 2 right now. Those are some of our other companies that are in our Fund 1 and Fund 2. This is how you can find me. And I have my teammates here, Sarah Deshpande, and Robert is here as well. And we'll be outside after. If I don't get to any of your questions, feel free to, we'll stay around for 15, 20 minutes after. Feel free to come up and chat with me about your companies. You can always send us your pitch if you're doing consumer software. I think I'm going to end on that and just really open it up for any questions about self-driving cars, consumer software, investing, how to build a billion-dollar company.
Cool, let's open it up and let's give it up for Jim. Come on. I'll just grab a seat. Answer some questions. Well, thank you. So first question bubbling up here, and I think we're going to have a mic wandering around too in the crowd to get a little more personal.
Yeah, but, I like the personal questions.
Yeah, let's do that. So first question here, what are early indicators your company has potential to be a high-growth consumer business?
So it's a good question. So we, look, we'll invest in a vision, an idea, and a team. So in some cases, we don't necessarily need to see any kind of traction. Sometimes we have ideas. We're always thinking about, self-driving cars. When we invested in Cruise, nobody thought that was going to be a market. So we're sometimes ahead of the game. The trick in our business is not to be too far ahead, right? So our big bet was that self-driving cars was going to be here in 2018, not 2028 or 2038. We did an investment in a company called AltSpace, which is in VR, 2 years ago. That's probably a little bit early. Fortunately, we raised a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of traction, and we're waiting for that hardware platform to take off. So it really depends on your particular business. If you're a classic social networking kind of business, there are metrics that we do look for. How many people are using your product, and what we really focus on is how engaged they are. Sometimes, when we invested in Monkey, they didn't have tens of millions of people using the video chat product that they've created, but the people that were using it in the thousands and tens of thousands were using it every day. We saw something special happening here, that there's potentially a new communication platform around video and mobile through this product. And then we looked at the team and we said, this is interesting. Ben is 17, is co-founder who built basically full stack developer, 18. This is a product for teens built by teens, and we love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's extraordinary. To follow up on that, and we chatted about this a little bit earlier, how important is it to you for the founders to be, it doesn't matter if it's their first startup, second startup, is that important to you?
It is sometimes. Look, I think that we found that the most successful founders that we've invested in are second or third time founders with a team of 2. And with that said, we invest in single founders, we invest in teams of 3 and 4. But the truth is, after, I'd say almost all of our companies that had 3 or 4 founders, I don't think we've invested in any with more than 4, have ended up with 2. And there's a reason for it, right? Because it's really hard to scale, build a company, scale, hire, ship product constantly when you have to, get 3 or 4 people to decide. I was just watching Snapchat's Roadshow video, and you see the 2, co-founders who, they were just a great fit. There was like the product, marketing, Evan the visionary, and then Bobby, the sort of technical founder, and they're friends, and they're in the trenches together. We love that. And they, the founders that have been through this before, whether you're successful or not, you've learned a lot. It's not your first time, building a product and scaling a business. With that said, we invested in a company that's launching this Friday, which I think you guys are going to hear about, and we think it's a big announcement coming up on Friday in the self-driving truck space. Wow. Yeah, which it's a team of young entrepreneurs from Waterloo. That's the first time that they've ever done a company. So we'll invest in 18, 19, 20-year-old first-time founders, as well as founders who are in their 30s and 40s who've been doing this for many times.
Wow, very cool. So question here, speaking of product market and fit, what comes first? Product market fit or seed round?
I'd say it depends on your business. I'd say most likely today it's product market fit. Unless you're bootstrapping it and you got friends and family who just know you, or it's your second or third time doing a startup and you have found investors who have already been successful with you or just believe in you. They're like, I just want to, whatever you do, we're going to put money in and we'll figure it out. Most of the time, some product market fit is going to be really helpful for you to do a proper seed round. But let me just say that all the language has changed. So like a seed round today, we're doing seed rounds that we used to call Series A, $2 or $3 or $4 million rounds. We're also doing seed rounds that are $500,000 that are really, I don't know, pre-seed. The language has changed. So, I'd say raise a little bit of money. Better yet, if you're a talented developer, you and your co-founder go build the product, show product market fit, and then go out and raise some money. Because you're going to actually give up less of your company if you have product market fit. And frankly, you'll know that this is something that you want to spend your time on. Like you're solving a problem. You've got people using this product. It doesn't have to be 10 million people using it. It could be 100 or 1,000. But show that you're really solving a problem for them.
Awesome. Let's open it up to the crowd. I think we've got a mic out and about. Any crowds directly from the audience? Anybody want to stand up, ask a question? Yeah, way in back.
While he's getting the mic, let me ask you with the raising your hand. How many people think we're going to have fully autonomous vehicles? No one, let me put it this way, no steering wheel or pedals in a car driving around Palo Alto or San Francisco in a significant way in the next 10 years? Raise your hand. The next 5 years? The next 3 years? Huh. Okay, good. Yes?
Hello, thank you. My name is Lavelle Russell. I'm from East Palo Alto. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm also an instructor at Street Code Academy. My question today is, how do we create a pipeline that helps fund entrepreneurs in underserved communities that do not have the Ivy League college credentials, but have the drive and the great ideas?
That's a great question. We look a lot, I personally been reading a lot about diversity and startups, and we think about that as we invest in our companies, and we also try to teach our founders how to create a more diverse work environment and a diverse team. In fact, I'll just mention Ben again. I'll give him a shout out. A 17-year-old founder who called us and said, "Look, I just want to learn. When we build this team, I want to understand how do we create a diverse environment? How do I get minorities in here, African American, women?" His first hire was a teenage. Actually, he wants to mostly hire teenagers, and his first hire was a teenage woman, 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl, and he's like, I just want to make sure it's a safe environment for them. I love the fact that he's thinking about that. Now, I think, by the way, there's no easy answer, but first of all, we've got to talk about it. Second of all, I think that there's now a lot written about how we can help hire in a more diverse way without our own internal biases. So I'll give an example, and you've probably heard about this and read about it. Instead of just bringing, what we used to do is we're hiring for the next engineer, and we're going to bring in the token woman and the token African American. Okay, well, that usually never leads to hiring someone from those groups. What we need to do is bring in 2 or 3 people from each of the groups, right? There are certain ways that will actually show significant hiring and diversity that we are starting to understand and implement in companies. And I think that, frankly, there'll be more and more of this, the idea of you don't have to have a certain path to succeed. There's a company in San Francisco called Horizons, which is doing a coding school for dropouts from high school and college. Right? These are high school dropouts, so learning how to code. It's not, forget about going to the Ivy League schools. You're not even graduating high school, but you're coding and you're learning how to be an entrepreneur. Those kinds of people will get hired and prove themselves in the workforce. And I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more diversity here in Silicon Valley and around the United States.
Other questions out there in the crowd?
So much for answering that question. And once again, my name is Lavelle Russell, and I'm here to help all you guys bridge that gap. So if you guys have any questions, please contact me and let's work out a plan where we can get you guys into these inner city communities.
Give it up for Lavelle.
Thank you.
All right, next question over there in the corner. While we're working our way over to that one. So tell us about your level of patience with a startup.
Sure.
Can the clock run out?
Yeah, listen, so first of all, there's sort of a loaded question. Know who your investors are. At Maven, we pride ourselves in being the most helpful investor you're going to have, especially early on. We look for coachable founders because we feel like that's how we add value. I personally keep doing this because I'm passionate about helping our entrepreneurs succeed in bringing products and companies in the world that are going to improve lives and tens of millions of lives and actually be very successful businesses, hopefully adding to our 5 so far unicorn successes. And by the way, we've had $100 million exits and $300 million exits too. We love those companies as well. But we always shoot for $1 billion because frankly, it's just as hard to build a $1 billion company as it is a $100 million or $10 million company. So we love coachable teams. We're very hands-on. And we will be there with you from start to finish. Now, with that said, sometimes the vision we're fighting for and the product market fit early on doesn't actually lead to a very successful business. And I'll mention one. We had this great idea to help everyone improve meetings, and it was a company called WorkLife, a great founder, great team. They built this and scaled this business to tens of thousands of people, which was like an agenda software company. And we got to a certain scale, and then we started charging for it, and we realized this is not going to be a billion-dollar company. In fact, it's going to be a struggle to raise a big Series A. So some VCs would say, you know what, just go for broke. We're going to try and make... We're not like that. If we don't think that there's we had a great vision, we thought, great team, it just wasn't a billion-dollar idea, which is okay. Sometimes that happens. So what we'd said is, look, you've got about 3 or 6 months left of cash. Why don't we help you find a home? And long story short, a bunch of people are interested. Cisco bought the company. They all made money. We got our money back. They have jobs. The product lives on within Cisco. It's now going to be a nice integrated product into Cisco. Nothing wrong with that. A nice success story. A year or two from now, they could leave and do another startup if they want. right? So we'll even support an exit like that.
So how deep do you dig into the startup? So we see today, at least, read about an accelerator is looking more like a VC and a VC is looking more like an accelerator, and there's sort of this blending. Do you guys really roll up your sleeves and get into the operational side of a startup?
I mean, yes and no. Let me be clear. We're not co-founders. And we make that very clear. Like, we're investing in our founders for them to be successful, right? And we'll make we'll work as hard as we can, give you all the resources you need, in addition to cash, right? We'll introduce you to people who will help you with hiring. We'll actually help you work, we'll kind of work with you to put down on paper what your culture and your value system is. A lot of startups don't think about that, but it's super important. Before you end up hiring people, understand the kind of business you're trying to build and building the culture and diversity issues, right? We'll help you think about PR, marketing, strategy. The that launch that's happening, we spent many hours with the founders with the press release, and we'll help you redraft press releases. We'll roll up our sleeves. The core business is your business. We're there to help advise you. We actually like to set up board advisory meetings once a month or once every 2 months so we can kind of dig in. We'll give you a lot of advice. We think it's always great advice, but you'll take what you want from that. And it's really up to the founders to actually execute on it. It's important because after about a year and a half, we're going to help you raise your Series A, and now you really are on your own. So if you are relying on us as a co-founder, that's not a healthy relationship.
So this is an interesting question. So do you see a possible unicorn emerging from Latin America?
I mean, unicorns will emerge from everywhere, 100%. And why not Latin America? I'm sure there's already been some. We personally invest here in Silicon Valley. The reason is mostly, we do some investing in New York, Toronto, Tel Aviv, but mostly here, because this is still the best place, we think, in the world to build these kinds of companies, to achieve these kinds of successes. It doesn't mean it can't happen elsewhere. I think it certainly can and will be happening elsewhere.
So, I'm bullish on Chicago, of course. If you found a startup that interested you in Chicago, would it be a requirement for them to move out here?
Not necessarily. So Ben and Isaiah, his co-founder, they're in New York. We had a conversation about that, and they're willing. Teams are willing to move, which we like if it makes sense. Sometimes it makes sense to stay in New York. Right now they're the hottest thing in social networking in New York. They come out here. They're small fish in a big pond. At some point, though, it may make sense for them to come out here to find the right talent. And frankly, still a lot of the capital is out here. But you know what? There's a lot of capital in New York. There's a lot of capital in LA. There's a lot of talent in LA. Snapchat going public is going to throw off a lot of great engineers, who are successful. Chicago, Groupon, there's a bunch of companies in Chicago. I mean, it may make sense to stay in that region. We like the founders to be open to coming here. When we invest in companies in Tel Aviv, we like the founders to be here, but we also love having the tech team in Israel so they can grow there actually more efficiently and for a lot less money in the tech team. But we like to be close. For us to be effective in our mentoring and hands-on coaching, it's really much more effective to be right here.
Proximal, yep. Yeah. Any more? Yeah, right here.
So what's your vantage?
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead. I'll repeat it.
What's your vantage point on founders addressing their own problem versus them having a passion to drive?
Yeah.
Push through the obstacles, the tribulations that they have to deal with, versus
Sure.
get traction and build momentum versus someone who is not solving their own pain points.
Yeah.
So how important is it to solve your own problem?
And there were two questions. One is, how important is it to solve your own problem? And the other, maybe related, is, do we look for passionate founders? So I would say for the latter piece, it's one of our requirements. We have 9 filters of what we look for before we invest, and we have about 7 filters within just the founders, and one of them is, are they passionate about this? So they have some unique insights into this problem. Now, it could be that they're solving the problem for themselves. Great. It doesn't have to be that. It could be they were doing something and they realized, this has always been a problem, but no one solved this. And it's actually something that I've been curious about. I mean, Kyle, that was a passion that he wanted to solve since he's been a teenager, right? With Monkey, it wasn't like the founders were going, hey, I want to build this video chat product that's going to help teens meet each other. But when they realized that there are 2 companies before. His first company started at 15, the second at 16, both failed. By the way, we don't like that he failed, but we like that this is his 3rd company. Then he realized, I could build this product that actually speaks to me in my generation, and I could build something that allows people to communicate, teens to communicate more effectively to their internet friends, not necessarily the people they're ever going to meet in real life, but on the internet. Like, that's really powerful. He understands the demographic, he's passionate about it. I don't think he's necessarily solving a problem for himself. In that case, maybe he was. But I think it's absolutely a requirement. Look, at the end of the day, you guys are going to be working on this for 5 to 10 years of your life. If it's something that you just fell into and you don't really care about, I would say don't do it. You're not likely going to succeed. You're certainly not going to build a $1 billion company. Find something that you really feel passionate about, because most of the time, it's going to be a struggle. Things are not going to be going well. And so if you have that passion to see it through, whether it's Airbnb or Uber, where everyone's telling you it's a crazy idea, but you know that it's like this, the world needs this, and it's going to make the world better, then you're going to probably succeed. So absolutely, it's one of our big filters.
Awesome. All right, let's give it up for Jim Scheinman. Thank you.